Shout out to Cats Pod.
1 second. A big defensive play for Montana State.
Touchdown, Tommy Milan is electrifying.
Welcome to the Cats Pod. What's up, Podcats? We are back and better than ever. We are home now, which feels really good. Over the last few days, Eric, how many hours of driving did we do?
Well, by the time I put the car in the garage, we checked in just shy of 14 hours in 3.5 days. So, yeah, little road trip, but a 49-7 win sure makes those miles a lot sweeter.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely worth it the way that the Cats actually showed up for this game when it came to making that extra drive down to Bozeman and just a lot of miles on the road. I'm very tired. I'm sure you're very tired. Like, it's just like it was a whirlwind of a weekend, very good time, lots of fun, but at the same time it's like, yeah, there's a reason you only take trips like that once a year, once every 6 months, something like that, you know? Yeah.
But we got to see, and I think this one was a little cooler because, we were actually in the stands for this one, and got to feel what the energy is like,
Which
and
is spectacular.
It was noisy in that first half. It was real noisy.
Oh yeah.
This was, I thought, until the starters came out, out of the game, I should say, this was a really, really complete game. I mean, from start to finish, I mean, Sac State couldn't do anything.
Yeah. They couldn't do anything offensively. They couldn't do anything defensively. It was just kind of an all-around dominating game. There's one drop pass that I remember seeing that I was like, okay, that's no good. And then the drive where Scottre fumbled and then Adam Jones fumbled. And that's you got to be nitpicking pretty hard if that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
In one of these games,
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody kind of already knows this, but Sac State is pretty much they're pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But Sac State is a team that does score on other teams. It's not.
Yeah. They're
not getting dismantled. I mean, this was what 35-0 before they scored their first points. I mean, it was.
Yep.
This game was so over at halftime. I mean, it was just they were toast. They were never going to get anything going, and MSU just until they pulled the starters, really, they shut them down, and Sac State didn't even come close. I mean, I guess right there at the end of the first half, John Johnson picked off that Conklin in the end zone, which saved some points. But once again, when it mattered, the defense really came through for him there. But I mean, showing an ability to hold a team scoreless that usually puts up at least a couple touchdowns is pretty impressive, and they obliterated the spread.
Yeah, the spread feels bad about itself this morning. The spread is sitting at home, eating a tub of ice cream because that's how much it got demolished emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The spread's not okay. Yeah,
this was just a dismantling of this Sacramento State offense. We didn't even have our best defensive player on the field at any point.
Yeah, he just sat out the entire game, which I really wish we would have known before we placed bets, but that's not his fault,
Right.
That would have been really nice to know that he wasn't playing before we placed some bets. But, that aside, you're right. We played the entire game without our best defensive weapon, and it was completely dominating.
And really, Zach Cruz, Hunter Parsons, Kenny Iden, those guys on the edge there really looked the part. They really did. I mean, they were back in the backfield causing problems. basically, essentially what they did was just force everything to the middle, and then our monster DTs just walk in there and clean them up big time.
That did seem like the game plan for the defense the entire time. I mean, it's just as simple as everybody does their job on this team.
Yeah. I just want
It's
to
not
walk
even
you through
that crazy.
I just want to walk you through what other teams have put up on Sac State, just so everybody knows
a little bit of context. A little bit of context for this score.
What I meant to say was I want to say how many points Sac State has put up on other teams this season, just so everybody has some context, just kind of how impressive this dismantling was. So,
for sure.
First game of 2024 was San Jose State, so FBS, but Sac State puts up 24 points on them.
Mm-hmm.
Second game, FBS, Sac State puts up 30 points on them.
Yep.
Nichols, whatever, but they still scored 34. They beat Texas A&M Commerce by 34.
Mm-hmm.
They put up 16 against Northern Arizona. They put up 28 against Eastern Washington. They put up 51 on Weber State. They put up 27 on Idaho State. They put up 38 at Portland State.
Mm-hmm.
7 with us.
And that's really the only... That's really the only team outside of, like we mentioned right at the beginning there, who was it? That Fresno State team? No team has really held them to fewer points. You know, it hasn't even really been close. It kind of goes back and forth with the wins and the losses here. I was trying to pay attention, but this offense has shown that they do put up points, and they didn't this week. And I think that was the defense answering after last week, after all the questions online about, oh, this is the first time the Cats get tested, and all of a sudden they let Eastern Washington put up some points. But they definitely made a statement against Sacramento State.
Yeah. The next closest would be the Northern Arizona game where Sac State only scored 16.
Yep.
So now I know they're beat up and everything, but you're holding an FCS team to, I mean, what their only score was a 43-yard got lucky, you know?
Yep. Which is going to happen. It's going to happen.
It is going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to probably get something, but 7 points for a actual team. I mean, I know that we're getting used to blowing bad teams out. I mean, that's what good teams do. They blow bad teams out, boat race them, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it just felt even more. Like, it just felt like they took the souls from these guys.
This felt like, I don't know, we stayed on the ground the entire time. Like, when you look back at it, it didn't seem like that in person. But Tommy only threw the ball 10 times in this game for 89 yards. Okay?
Yep.
He was 7 for 10, still efficient as always. But the fact that we almost dropped, almost 600 yards of rushing.
I think it ended up being 511 or something like that.
511, yeah. It's like it felt like a game where we didn't even have to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Like it was exactly. Just, we didn't do it because it was completely unnecessary. It wouldn't have made any difference.
It ended up being 508 total, but we had -7 from something. I don't know what that came from.
Some random play, yeah.
We had about 5'10", somewhere around there. But I mean, you're right, man. I mean, what they did on the ground, and it starts with the Don Joy Mafia. I mean, those guys were. It wasn't ever even hard for them, I don't think. I mean, I know that's probably going a little overboard. Everything's difficult, but they kind of made it look easy.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a little spoiled.
You're right. I was watching through. Samuel Kim dropped his breakdown videos today, and I watched the beginning of the Sac State Montana State one, and going back through all those plays, it is pretty amazing, the lines, the gaps that are opening up. Yeah. When that offensive line just plants their feet and decides what they're going to do. They make it look so easy to run through there. You are completely right. They make it look very easy.
I mean, and coming from, this was everybody saying, and I feel really bad for these cats because online is just a brutal place if you're a cat right now.
Yeah.
But
it's still bad today. Like I
It's
saw somebody who was just like, here are all the categories that Montana State is top 10 in. And the one comment you see is, and they're 112th in strength of schedule. I was like, okay.
yeah,
Okay. The strength of schedule results that came out at the very beginning of the season that are never adjusted because there's not people doing FCS stats like that. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, it would be different if these are Grizz fans, always Grizz fans, and it would be different if they were like in the top 10 for strength of schedule.
yeah,
But they're not.
Yeah.
They're 47.
right.
Which is like, it's not like they have a extremely strong schedule that they're going up against.
Well, and to take it even a step further, our wins are aging well.
Yeah.
But the thing, when you take into strength of schedule, when you start factoring that into things, it doesn't factor in how bad you beat a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Because Portland State is a frisky team. There's
Oh, yeah.
absolutely no argument there. They are actually pretty good, and the Cats made them look like Bozeman High. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they looked like an above average high school team.
Oh,
is
yeah.
what Portland State looked like. So, the strength of schedule thing's just annoying because no Grizz fan should ever open their mouth because they have wins that are, or losses that are terrible. I mean,
Mhm.
Weber State and North Dakota those are bad losses at this point. Really,
Yeah.
really bad.
They are not looking good whatsoever. And
But-
it's a terrible argument to even bring up. I just saw it, and it was the first
Yeah,
thing
no.
I saw on FCS Fans Nation this morning, and I was
Yeah.
like, of course. Like, of course.
Yeah. No, it definitely needs to be brought up because this narrative of the Cats never play anybody is just getting obnoxious because by the time we pull our starters, the spread has been absolutely obliterated.
Yeah. It's getting
it's-
it's getting ridiculous this year to the point where I feel like we could go play against like South Dakota State next week and we could beat them by 30 and teams would be like, "Well, they didn't play South Dakota State's team from last year." That was a real amazing team, you know? Like I feel like there's always going to be some line of judgment that's going to be passed no matter what. Like the Cats could win the national championship and they'd be like, "Well, it was a down year for all of the FCS."
So
Cool.
the one that's absolutely killing me this year is everybody's like, "Oh, you beat a bad or a banged up Idaho team."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, hold up a sec. Last time I checked, that Idaho team was only missing Lane, the quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and his backup is the one that beat Wyoming. So how can they be a team that loses by 40 points?
Mm-hmm.
If that's only, I mean, a guy that's obviously, on par or, just barely under the starter.
Yep.
I mean, it was a quarterback controversy in the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they kind of knew who the starter was, but it wasn't set until, right then. And
They also
Idaho-
very conveniently don't bring up the players that aren't playing for the Cats.
yeah,
Like,
that just,
There has been so many injuries on this Cat team, defensively especially, but we have lost a lot of people throughout the season, and usually that would be the chink in the armor that people are pointing out. But they're just continuously saying that it's no competition.
That's actually a fantastic point that you brought up. I mean, because it's true. Because everybody likes to talk about the injuries and why, Eastern Washington was missing his quarterback. It's like, okay, cool. We're missing 3 absolute studs. I mean, all 3 of those guys that are off on our defense would be the best player on most other teams by a substantial margin.
We haven't seen one of the most influential players on our offensive line yet this year.
Exactly.
He hasn't played a single snap. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. Like, still have very talented offensive linemen. Definitely not going to say that, like, we're missing the best one, but anybody who knows anything, knows that the center is one of the most important positions on an offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the more we talk about what this Cat team has overcome with these injuries, it makes me believe a little more that might be why Eastern Washington did anything, was a group of, I won't want to say new guys, but I mean, we essentially replaced 3 key positions on defense with, granted, backups have had quite a bit of playing time, but these are, there's new guys on the field, and maybe they just needed to gel a little bit, because if this is what they look like when they're gelled, what they did to Sac State, we're in a good spot.
Hunter Parsons was looking very good. He did impress me a lot in this game. It was a situation where I wasn't really sure what he was going to bring to that defensive line, because he must have been the last-second decision, right? Like
it had to have been. Yeah. Everything that I've heard, I found out, when we started wondering where Brody was, then I found out that he was scratched like just a little, a couple hours before the game is kind of what it sounded like.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the time he had to get prepared,
Next man up, baby. 1-0 every week. That, like, Cat culture, I know it's something that we talked a lot more last year about than this year, but I feel like, gotta say, it is damn impressive what Coach Vegan has set up with this team and their mentality and all of the emotional factors behind a football team that are usually the things that tear down great teams that are going 8-0, 9-0, everything like that. You have to have that champion mentality behind it.
Yeah.
And these Cats have that in spades.
Yeah. It's awfully impressive. I mean, I'm just glancing through the individual stats for the offense here. And this stat line from Adam Jones.
Yeah.
You should probably give him the Jerry Rice for this right here. 5 carries, 159 yards, a touchdown for an average of 31.8 per carry.
Wow.
That's
impressive, young man. Impressive.
That's unbelievable. I mean, this is a young kid out there playing with the big dogs that puts up averages 31.8 and 159 overall. That's
insane.
That's like the Randy Moss, the 3 catches, 300 or 289 yards or whatever the heck it was. Stat line that he had. That's what that is. You don't see those numbers very often. That's and then of course Scotty Humphrey just does what he does, 12 for 129. That's unbelievable.
Scottray's been incredibly consistent all season with having great games.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have an off day. He barely ever has off plays.
Right.
Yeah. Barely ever has one single play where we go like, oh, he didn't make it that far on that one. Like, he is a killer all the time.
Yeah, he's a little bowling ball with insane speed. I mean, you better get him. You better get 3 or 4 guys on him, or he's still gonna break your tackles and take it really far.
Oh yeah.
But
you gotta bring your buddies.
The other thing to bring up was it was nice to see Julius Davis, really go a whole game.
Working his way back into the rhythm, back into shape. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, and we got to see some of that elusiveness throughout the game, where it just doesn't look like there's anything there for him. Yet he just turns into a piece of paper and slides through a non-existent gap. Really happy to see kind of how he's coming along right now, and I don't know if that was Vegan saying, hey, let's keep you in to get some playing time, or if that was him saying, nah, I need this. But whatever it was, it's pretty cool to see that he's willing to play a full game in a blowout just to try and get himself ready.
Yeah. I'm sure he's been dying to be out there, and it was more like, I imagine it being more like, hey, I want to stay out there. I want to get can I get 20 more reps or whatever it's going to be, just begging to stay out on there on the field, because that seems like what Julius Davis does. That seems like the kind of person he is.
Yeah, exactly. We did finally get some punts from Brendan Hall in this game.
Let's go. Keep punting.
Yeah. 2 for 101 with an average of 50.5.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Should we bring up the horse pucky?
Yeah, let's go for it.
That intentional grounding call was horse pucky.
Yeah, we were pretty angry about that.
The whole stadium
there was some choice words being spread around the stadium after that call.
Yeah.
It's just an odd one. Like I wasn't going to take the time to look at a replay of it or anything, but I just don't know how you make that call in that situation in the game, or like why it even matters, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so sick and tired of Big Sky refs at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They have got to be the worst. I mean, seriously, they suck.
Yeah.
It
is getting old.
I don't know what to say. And we watched the Montana game too.
Mm-hmm.
We had on TV. And there was some I'm happy that there's those calls went against the Grizzlies, but
there was rough calls both ways in that game. Like it was a weird one.
When are we going to get refs in there that actually understand the game of football? I don't get it. I mean, there's these terrible calls are going on every team except for whoever the Cats are playing is what it seems like. But that was really the only horse pucky I had from this game.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. Not a whole lot of horse pucky. It's kind of hard for the refs to make any difference in the game when you beat somebody by 7 times their score, you know.
Yeah, it was it was a pretty epic beating, and I feel like I know I'm beating a dead horse here, or maybe I should say I'm beating a dead bumblebee, but Sac State
being a dead hornet.
Yeah. They were just rendered useless in this game and brought to a point that might be hard to come back from the way they got beat down in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially 7 points, and those 7 points came from an oopsie. That is it.
Yeah. Their season's over. Like I don't think there's anything else to it at this point. No. The season's over for them.
I'm just saying this really feels like it might have been a morale killer.
Yeah.
For them. I mean, I know they have some bad losses, but this was brutal.
This is that point in the season where you start seeing players like potentially hitting the early transfer portal kind of situation. But
yeah,
who on this team is quality enough to have actual transfer offers? You got to start asking that question now too.
Yeah,
these guys got to start putting some action on film.
Yeah,
or else they're not going to get offers from other schools. They're not going to get offers to stick around. Like that's what happens when one of these teams implodes like this.
Exactly. Yeah, and to get beat down like this, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of lose out at this point, or maybe it's a bit of a wake up call because I don't think anybody was expecting this kind of blowout.
No, yeah, I nobody really was. Nobody.
I mean, I knew it was going to be I knew it was going to be a blowout, but I didn't think a 42-point blowout.
Yeah,
was in the works for Saturday.
No. Luckily, looks like they have Cal Poly coming up next week, so hopefully they can get back on track. This is the one opportunity you're playing Cal Poly. Have fun.
Yeah. I think you know who I'm going to pick on Wednesday when we pick that game.
I kind of do.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the game goes, I mean, that's really it. Offense was unreal. Defense was unreal.
Both sides of the ball played very well. Special teams also very well. I was listening back to the radio broadcast, and I didn't realize that old Money Miles is like 49 for 50 on extra points. Like I knew he had only missed the one this season, but that's pretty impressive when you're that consistent.
Yeah. I mean, when you're scoring 7 touchdowns in a game, it brings up a lot of opportunities to miss one. And at this point, you're not even worried, you know?
Just staying consistent.
He's going out there doing what he's supposed to do. And I mean, I think we all know that extra points aren't a gimme. So
no.
really happy to see that we have some stability at that kicker spot right now.
Yeah. It definitely is one of those things that gives you a lot of peace of mind going into these playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, after a game like this, there's not a whole lot that's not giving me peace of mind right now.
No.
I'm trying to find something just so that I'm not jinxing everything for us, but at the same time, I'm just sitting here like I don't have a lot of question marks with this team.
That's exactly it. I mean, I feel like it starts at the top, and the coaches are on the same page with how this is supposed to run. They're not trying any cutesy stuff, playing it really safe with Tommy, letting him kind of take command. The skill positions are the best I think I've ever seen, and offensive line is the best in the country. And the defense has overcome a ton of adversity.
Oh, yeah.
Over the season, and they've handled it really well, obviously.
I'm just excited, honestly. That's about all I can pull out of everything is I'm just excited for these next few weeks.
Yeah. And we're not going to get into next weekend's game until Wednesday, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Big Sky Game of the Week stamped on next week's game.
Oh yeah, if it's not Big Sky Game of the Week, what else are you gonna do?
I don't know.
Like who else are you gonna put in that spot? Doesn't make any sense.
There's really nothing. I mean, there's some cool games next week for sure, but that one is huge.
Yeah.
And the rankings came out today, and they bumped UC up to 4. Jumps USD on that one, which makes that a top 4 matchup for us.
Yeah, which we've been needing. The championship committee put them at 5. It looks like, but coaches polls got them at 4. Stats Perform also has them at 4. The committee always needs a little bit more convincing when it comes to moving teams up. It seems like.
Was Montana 11 in both polls?
Montana is 10 on Stats Perform, and they are 11 on the coaches poll. They are also 10 when it comes to the rankings for the bracket.
It would be nice, just looking at those, that if we could have a little shakeup somewhere in maybe that 7 to 10 range, or even maybe 6 to 10 range.
Yep.
Where a Grizzly win over Portland State would put them back into the top 10, so we could get another top 10 win.
Yep.
At the time, because that would really help strength of schedule wise and potential playoff seeding. That's the only way we could jump North Dakota State for that 1 seed is if we have highly ranked wins to close out the season, and maybe North Dakota State stumbles somewhere.
I think we've got to be an undefeated Big Sky champion. And honestly, I think North Dakota State has to lose to get the number 1 seed. I don't think that the committee's going to ever set that precedent.
Yeah. So the only chance is we went out against 2 top 10, 1 a top 4, 1 a top 10, and maybe we can say the right prayers or something. I don't know. Yep. Maybe we could jump them, but I don't foresee that happening. But I think I kind of agree with you. I think probably North Dakota State's got to have a loss there at the end to knock them off that top spot. But either way, big games coming up. I really like how we're sitting in the rankings. None of those other teams are scary at all. If they had to come to Bozeman at all.
Honestly, I don't want to start playing the whole bracket math thing of we could end up matched up with this team or matched up with that team when it comes to the semifinals, quarterfinals, anything like that. Because you know the way I treat these situations, and I would rather us have the murderer's row. I would rather us have the hardest path there is so that nobody can say a single word when it's all said and done.
Well, when you look through that top 10, or you can even go to the top 15,
yep,
and you take out the Big Sky schools that we know so well, and obviously the Dakota States.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in that is intimidating.
No, I'm not worried about like Incarnate Word or Mercer or any of those schools. Villanova has showed that they are a very fraudulent team. So
Yeah,
they don't really do anything for me either.
Mercer and Villanova both have terrible losses. Villanova
Mhm.
got blown out by Maine, and Mercer lost to, gosh, I can't even remember who it was now, but they got blown out by another school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and they're not good schools that beat them either.
Yeah.
So it's, none of those schools are scary in the least bit. I know their fan bases like to talk
Mhm.
about, oh, you guys are, they're not taking us into account. They're not giving us our respect. And it's like, yeah, well, you're just not in the same page as.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Dakota States in USD,
Mm-hmm.
the Montana schools, Idaho, UC Davis is outside of those 7.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't anything scary.
No, not really.
I mean, I don't think any of those 7 are going to be quaking in their shoes at old Tarleton State.
No, Tarleton does not do it for me. Honestly, I haven't essentially paid enough attention to any of these other conference schools. I do enough to know who's up, who's down, who's playing well, who isn't playing well, but I don't know a single player on the teams. It's so hard. And if there was quality players out there, we would hear about them. We're doing enough research on it.
You remember last year where there was the Albany Holy Cross. I know Delaware, kind of, not really Delaware, but kind of. But you knew that Albany and Holy Cross had something going.
Yeah.
And they had some superstar players on those teams. That Jalen Coker's getting real playing time in an NFL right now.
Yeah.
And Matthew Sluka was tearing it up at UNLV. So it's just like, you had those couple of schools that were like, those they could play some spoiler here and there, and they did have some decent runs, but I just don't feel that this year out of any of those teams. There's no hype on them at all.
Yeah. There's nobody that feels like Furman to me, especially.
Yeah, Furman.
Furman played really good football in the playoffs, and we gave them very little credit last year.
Yeah, that's another one.
They played some very impressive games.
Yeah. So it's just, over the course of the season, there just hasn't been anybody that just blowing the doors off of people with superstar players or anything like that to make any of these guys. So outside of those 7 I named, it's really not that scary at the beginning of the playoffs,
No. Which is a problem. I need to start being scared because when I feel comfortable, that's when I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'll be all panicked when we start not having completely stress-free wins. So
yeah, the first time we have a game that's under 2 scores,
I'm getting spoiled. Damn it, Cats! You're spoiling me. This isn't good for my ego.
I'm gonna get fat. I'm gonna be all fat and happy. I won't know what to do with myself.
Oh,
Part of being a Bobcat fan has always been being depressed. So we really don't know how to handle ourselves right now. We're the new money Bobcat fans, and we do not do well with it.
No, that's a really good way to put it. But yeah, no, it's right now is a pretty good time to be a Bobcat fan. I cannot wait for next weekend. Next weekend's going to be legit. I can't wait for it. Yeah.
Shout out to Coach Vegan, who shook both of our hands this weekend.
Yep. That was pretty cool.
I think he said all of 1.5 word to me, and I was quaking like a little girl.
Yeah, that was cool getting to see him at dinner on Saturday night. I was not expecting that.
No, definitely. When he walked in, everybody's heads turned,
Yeah.
It's like Michael Jordan just walked in the room. Our Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Well,
he is more of a Phil Jackson type, though. He does give me those like Zen vibes where he's like quiet and laid back most of the time.
So since you brought up Vegan, I feel like we need to talk about how big of a dickhead Bobby Houck was in his press conference.
I haven't watched this one yet. Was there some gems in it?
So Sean Rainey posted his question that he asked Bobby Houck in the press conference, and his question was, I don't know it word for word, but essentially something along the lines of, did you ever plan on picking a quarterback, or did you plan on running both and not just kind of, just because one's having a good game doesn't mean you do or don't put the other one in, or it's just basically asking him in a roundabout way if he was ever going to pick a quarterback, and his answer was, I honestly don't really care. And I read the comments.
Bobby, couldn't tell whatsoever.
Yeah, I read the comments, and everybody's like, maybe Houck has just lost his love for the game, and I think it's time he be fired.
I don't think he's ever had love for anything. I think that's part of the problem. He is a very angry individual, and I don't know if he's ever had love.
He's an angry, sad little man with a very big nose.
Yep.
I feel like we haven't brought up any jokes about Bobby Houck's nose at all this season,
We've
and
been staying away from him.
That's shame on me for that.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't brought up a single one. That's shame on me.
What if we show up to Cat Grizz this year, and the glasses that have the nose on them?
Yeah.
I think we need to get those, except we replace it with like the 2001 Oakleys that Houck wears. And we just have that with the nose on it, and we show up to the game. I bet we get on the sideline.
Yeah. So, speaking of Houck, getting on a tangent here.
Mm-hmm.
Ben and I saw one of the most creative shirts I've ever seen at a football game.
It was a thing of beauty. I asked 3 different people where they got that shirt from, and nobody could tell me except for it was a booth right on the edge of the tailgates.
It was absolutely hysterical. Basically, I'm trying to remember, was it a bobcat spitting?
I can't remember. I don't know if we should even describe the shirt on the podcast. It was pretty risque, Yeah. The reference was pretty risque. I can't remember enough about the graphic, but it was either a grizzly bear getting spat on or something like that.
But essentially, they were playing on the Hawk Tua thing, except for they changed Hawk to Houck Tua.
It was Houck Tua, and whoever is making those shirts, hit us up. Because we will give you some free advertising for sure. You send us a couple shirts. We will wear them on the podcast. We will boost your website as much as we can. We just enjoy your content.
That was an unbelievably good shirt. So shout out to whoever made that shirt, and shout out to the people who bought it and wore it at the game.
Yeah. Even when it's not Cat Grizz, they're just like, I got this shirt. I can't not wear it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, that was super funny. Very, very creative. Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
Is there anything else we need to get into with this week's Cat game?
No, I think I'm good. Great day to be a Bobcat on Saturday.
Great day to be a Bobcat. Thank you for having us once again, Bozeman, Montana. You treated us very poorly as usual. Actually, that's just ourselves. We don't control ourselves when we get into the big city and we get around actual people. It's tough for us. It's tough. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars wherever you are listening to this at. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram or X at CatsPod. Check us out on YouTube at The CatsPod, because somebody took CatsPod and we're still trying to find them. But we have a certain set of skills and we will find them. Hope you guys have a great week. We will see you guys on Wednesday for the Pick'em Pod.
Adios.